One nation.
All right, we're going to wrap up the show with finding out what's some developments in the Palestine region. But before that, let's find out about some issues in Sweden. With me is Professor Amjan, or rather, let me correct myself, Professor Emin Poljarević, who's the Assistant Professor of Religion at the Uppsala University. Prof. Poljarević, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I mean, I've been following and reading some stories about some right-wing rallies and some rioting and who's saying what. I'm a bit uncertain, so I'm going to leave it to you to fill in all the blanks there. What happened?
All right. So we have a extremist politician from Denmark who is on tour in Sweden during these Easter holidays in order to incite the exactly the provocation or the violence that we are seeing at the moment. So he's going around different cities in Sweden and burning a Quran at these major kind of squares in these cities with the permission that he got from the police as an act of freedom of expression and so on and so forth, right? And according to Swedish media as well, this is happening, and then the reaction from the primarily youth of migrant background who are rioting primarily against the police. So, and the police is protecting this man who is doing the burning of the copies of the Quran.
Okay, so let's take it the first things first. I mean, so this right winger obviously has got very strong antipathy, or should I say hatred towards Muslims. I mean, that's what I would think. Why he would go to do what he's doing?
Yeah, exactly. So he has extreme hatred against Islam and Muslims, more broadly speaking, but he also wants to kind of demonstrate that Muslims are violent. So he wants to provoke this type of reaction from Muslims. Exactly.
Okay, and then he's and the symbol of burning the Quran. I mean, one thing is you can protest, but the fact that he's allowed to burn the Quran, I mean, where does that fit in with Swedish society?
So that's what the Swedish police got kind of criticized for, because this is the act of hatred. So they are, according to the Swedish law, they are supposed to assess the situation and see if there are dangers to property or humans when assessing the permit for such demonstrations, so to say. So they gave permits in the first days, but then they kind of revoked these permits later on when they saw the reaction from these youth, right?
And in burning the Quran, what did this Danish person, activist, what did the Danish person say? I mean, did they pronounce on anything when they burned the Qurans?
Yeah, so he's the leader of a political party actually in Denmark,
Okay.
who is even in the Danish parliament. So he's a extreme right, a neo-Nazi type of ideology. So what he wants to do essentially is to kind of demonstrate the fact that Muslims are uncivilized and that they cannot fit in this society. So imagine he's from Denmark, but he does this in Sweden. So where.
I mean, it should,
unfortunately, right.
It should puzzle you that the Swedish authorities have allowed this in the first place, isn't it?
So the primary reason behind the permission to do this is the freedom of expression, right? So now there is a big petition among in civil society, in Swedish civil society, where people are signing the petition to label the burning of the Quran as a hate crime. Right. So there's this kind of a mobilization of Swedish civil society where people are trying now to kind of gather enough signatures in order to kind of incite the politicians to change the law. I think it's futile in the end, but it's a good kind of ambition to have.
Okay. Now you then mentioned that there was a response to it, right? And they came mainly from immigrants from other communities who are now settled in Sweden, right? Do I take it they were obviously of the Muslim faith, therefore their anger at the burning of the Quran? I mean, tell me more about what happened then.
So there is no clear information that these youth are Muslim themselves, but we can imagine, right, that this problem goes far longer in time, because these youth from these kind of suburbs, and here in Sweden, suburbs are more populated by people of migrant background, which they generally poor, generally underfunded schools and activities, more broadly speaking. So the youth has extreme problem with the police and the authorities because there's a lack of trust among them. So this is not only expression against the burning of the Quran, but kind of expression of frustration and anger against the police themselves and against the Swedish authorities. So that is only a symptom, really, to a much larger problem that we have in Sweden, actually.
So, I mean, I understand police cars were set on fire. Do I take it that people were not hurt at all? I hope.
Yeah, in the beginning there were no personal injuries, only injuries to the property, especially the police cars, and some police were actually hurt by stone throwing youth, right? And now yesterday we got to know that 3 people were injured by police shooting actually at the crowd, not directly, but there was kind of ricochet of bullets which hit 3 people who were taken to the hospital, but no fatal injuries.
Okay. Has the Swedish political authorities have they said anything in response to what has unfolded?
Well, look, there's an election in Sweden going on in September this year, so we have a lot of rhetoric from all politicians, especially those on the right, that the police should use more force, be more prepared to meet this type of violence, and this kind of let's do it more tough response from the police, or even to prosecute the youth to the highest extent of the law, so to say.
Has there been any support from Swedish politicians in terms of understanding that this was in fact a hate crime? This was a clear attempt to incite the type of response they got, but centered on that was this extreme provocation of burning the Holy Quran.
Yeah, yes, there were actually a condemnation of this. At the same time as they condemned the violence, they also condemned the burning of the Quran, saying that this guy is an idiot, and calling him all types of names and whatnot. So and they are provoked by this, and they said you shouldn't do this, but that's the kind of freedom of expression right for him to do it. And at the same time, they are hurling much more critique at the violence, because that's totally unacceptable. Both among, I should say, among Muslim establishment here, the faith community is against this, right, and faith leaders, and also the politicians.
And lastly, Prof, your sense of how, within Swedish society generally, the level of integration of the Muslim communities, the Muslim faith within the greater Swedish society over the last years. What can you tell us about that? Give us an insight of a window into that society.
Well, look, there's a high level of Islamophobia in Sweden, both in levels of media and also in the political discourse. So the problem is really that Muslims, generally speaking, in the past decade, are seen as a problematic minority in Sweden, especially after 2015, at that summer of migration. We received a whole lot of refugees from Syria and other parts of the world. So you'll see that there's a rhetoric is quite high against Muslims and Islam in Sweden. So the situation is not very positive, I should say. But there is this also a hope that the civil society organization can do something in the future, kind of to organize even more. But at the moment, situation is not very good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing the information with us. Not in a good time. Maybe we'll talk with better news some other time. But your insights have been very, very well, they've certainly taught me lots of things. So certainly great insights there, Professor Emin Poljarević. Thank you for your time there, speaking to us from Sweden. And he's an assistant professor of religion at the Uppsala University, a very well-known university in Sweden. Well, that's it for today's show. Before we end, let me just remind you, this is important news. So Sentio is an ethically based asset manager that is focused on delivering superior risk-adjusted returns for their clients regardless of market conditions. For more info on their Sharia investment products, visit the website, which is centiocapital.com, and start saving towards your investment goals today. Centio Capital Management, invest for good. Centio Capital Management is an authorized financial services provider. And the show itself, so we'll be back tomorrow, don't forget that. And we are on every day from 8 to 10 during the entire month of Ramadan. Your general thoughts are, as always, absolutely welcome. And the show is brought to you courtesy of the Africa Muslims Agency. Now, coming up next is Juz 17 of the Holy Quran, and that's by Mishari Rashid Al-Fasi. Assalamu alaikum.